All right, so it's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, February 20th, 2018, and I'll call the meeting to order, and the first thing we'll do is stand for a moment of silent reflection. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Deputy Stockman?
Same one as always, to do with interim control bylaw final report. I have property that butts up to the south side property, so I won't be voting on that report.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I should probably declare on the, although I don't think we're making any decisions, but I won't take part in the wind noise discussion.
Okay, and then just for myself, I have the conflict with staff report, which would be the PW1, the well failure at the Mayfair Garage, as the private property is owned by a relative. So, Deputy Stockman will be taking over for that section of the staff reports. Okay, if there's nothing else, we have a few delegations and timed events for our meeting tonight. At 6:15, we have not Jennifer Huff, but we do have Dirk here, and Aaron, our planners for this evening for the interim control bylaw at 6:15. And then at 7:10, we have our committee of adjustment for the Grow Gas Farm Limited and the Geisberg Brothers Inc. 7:30, we have the notice of consideration of drainage works for both the Phillips Drain and the McKean Drain 2017. So what we'll do is we'll jump into our minutes and then correspondence, and then we'll probably, that should take up enough time to get into the planning report. So do we have a motion for to approve the minutes of our previous meeting as presented? Okay, moved by Councillor Sanders and seconded by Councillor McKinnon. Is there any errors or omissions on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Right. In the correspondence, the first one is from the Ministry of Environment, and it's the draft watershed planning report. Item number 2 is from the Saddle Bayfield Conservation Authority, and it's their agenda and minutes. Item number 3 is from the Thames Valley District School Board, and it's the invitation to community stakeholders. Item number 4 is from the Strathroy District Chamber of Commerce, and it's an update on their upcoming events. Item number 5 is the drinking water source protection, and it's their new supervisors. Item number 6 is from the County of Middlesex, and it's the Cruise the Coast 2018 map. I think everybody has one on their desk. Item number 7 is from Norwich, and it's the Ontario Building Code amendments, and it's a resolution. Thoughts on this one, Deputy Stockman?
My question was, what are Jeff's thoughts on it?
Mine's support. Obviously, it's very, like I say, that it's building is getting very technical each year. They just seem to be, putting more and more onto it. For example, I said a meeting in Middlesex Center with regards to changes that are in effect now. With every house now has a garage or driveway. Supposed to have an electric volt charging station. Basically, they're just supposed to rough it in for future. So in other words, like, it's for future, and we have to look for a 200 amp panel. The ESA, there's nothing in their code as far as the size of the panel. If they would pass a house with a 100 amp panel, but there's just getting to be so much, so many discrepancies and things for us to look for that we have to, the size of the conduit coming from the meter into the to the house, like to the panel, supposed to be sized, 2 inch. There's stuff like the ESA should be looking after some of this stuff. It's just it's getting very technical, and like I say, a lot of, as long as the builders right now in this area, a lot of them are just using the prescriptive methods for the energy efficiency. They're not, mix smashing and stuff like that. So it's very complex, but I've tended to course them aldehyde to the same thing, and builders walk out there just scratching their head. And, like it's just basically what they say is they're just going to follow the, A1 to A6 compliance package. They'll just pick that prescriptive path as opposed to trying to. But yeah, just getting.
So in other words, it would be good to support this.
Yeah.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Hendricks and seconder, Deputy Mayor Stockman. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. And then the last item for correspondence is item number 8, which is from the Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimist, and it's a request to waive fees. And that's for their 2018 soccer program. Councillor
Yeah,
Sanders?
we've always just let them have it, we never charged, right?
That's right.
Let them keep it.
Okay, so moved by Councillor
No,
Sanders,
that
and
we-
second by Deputy Mayor Stockman.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, then we just need a motion to resolve the council receive and file correspondence items CC1 to CC6. Okay, Councillor McKinnon? And second by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. That's just there for fun, right? We need a motion to receive that.
We do, yes.
Next on our agenda is our committee minutes, and it's the Health and Safety December 2017 minutes. And that's a motion, I don't know where it is here, to receive
Yes.
and file.
We
I assume.
proceed.
Is there any questions on those minutes? Okay. Motion to receive and file them. Okay, Councillor McKinnon, second by Councillor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. You got that?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, so we'll go into our staff reports, and our first one's from our Chief Building Official, Jeff Denby.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the first thing we've got is just the permit comparison from 2016 to December 31st, 2017. 2016 was a rather slow year, but 2017 is a little normal for permits, usually around 100 permits a year. Pretty straightforward. You can see the differences on the other ones that were some livestock buildings and a lot of septic due to the surplus farm buildings. Ours is a lot of repairs or replacements due to those. That was the major increase.
Councillor McKinnon, a question?
Question through the mayor to Jeff. The septic system repair, 7 as opposed to 3, was that because of the consents that were given?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the systems were able to just be repaired. They may have been able to reuse the existing tank. It was a 2-compartment tank. They just had to do the proper upgrades to it, like just risers to grade and to definitely filter, and then replace the bed. So yeah, in other words, it was a full replacement. They would have to change it.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions on that report?
Yeah, number 2 is just the annual report for the Kerwood sewage treatment plant. As you can see, just as far as repairs go, just the main pumps, it's commissioned in 2011. It was just November of 2010, but anyway, so we ran for about 7 years. I think we've done fairly well. This year just had to replace the 2 main pumps and different floats in the system. So, I remember when it was commissioned, some installers were telling me that we'd be replacing floats like every 6 months, but everything seems to be working pretty good there, and with minimal maintenance, I guess you might say, over the last 7 years. So, and we're getting nitrates down to a good level. We've met the objective 8 of the 12 months. The others, with the suspended salts and CBODs, we do discharge out to a bed again, so it is treated through the, through the sand built in the beds, so, nitrates, I think, is the biggest one. We managed to achieve that within 12 months, the objective was pretty high, 6, because the nitrates, the trigger condition for the monitoring wells, so, we seem to have that under control at the, by adding the molasses, and now we kind of stopped, but I think Aaron and I are just going to, every so often, we do have some molasses up on site, and we may just add every so often, just to try to keep things normal. But other than that, it's pretty good. Other than on heavy rain days, you get some influxes, and
What happens in a day like today?
this morning we were there at 6, well, Aaron was there at 6:30. It's great having him just around the corner. I don't know if he likes it too much, but I can generally just text him and what time do I have to be there kind of thing.
So what happens if we get too much rain? What's the problem? What's the...
There's just an influx. Like just whether it comes up to the manholes. We've raised the manholes in the fields. Like initially we noticed when there was a major rain event, again the pumps that couldn't keep up, and when you walk out in the field, it was just the way it was graded and everything. The water was just coming off the field, it was just pouring right in the manholes. So we raised those up. We put risers on the manholes that were in the fields, and to stop that. But from what I understand, you're always going to get some sort of influx. Whether the pipes, you just can't seal them. That well, they're still, when you're in clay ground like that, and whatever you sand or pea stone around those pipes, the water's going to be in somewhere. And just from what I understand, with all sewage treatment plants, you do get a certain percentage of influx.
Okay.
Heavy rains. And like I can't see. In Kerwoods, the houses are older, a lot of them connected to the sewer system from the septic tank. So they didn't go in under the footing. So a lot of the houses don't have sump pumps anyways. So it's not a lot of sump pumps connected to the system. It's just, there could be the odd one. I don't have to leave, you know what I mean? Like if someone's an issue, they're, obviously they're one of the water, they may plumb it in kind of thing. But I'm not going to get away from that. But for the most part, it's just, we do, a heavy thaw like this, melt there's still not water. It's kind of the summer. So yeah, it just seems to, the pumps just seem to, sometimes they just can't keep up, or they overheat sometimes, so they'll shut down, and then the high level alarm is triggered. And so there's some blockage in some of the pumps that just have to be cleared.
Is there any other questions on the report? Deputy Stockman?
I was trying to correlate rainfall to flow rates and stuff like that, and there's fairly good correlation once you get over 1.5 inches of rain. It looks like, at least at my place compared to there. But wondering if we should maybe be putting a rain gauge there or something like that, just to monitor to see if there is a correlation. Like we know there's a correlation, but just for our own purposes, or we just know it's wet, so.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any need for it.
And I was trying to, see if there's any correlation between our overages on either nitrates or suspended solids or those other ones. Pretty hard to come up with any correlation. One thing I noticed on the April report, you've got temperature and pH switched.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes on some of them you had pH on one side and temperature on the other, and then but this one you had it, because this was April and temperature was 7.6 and pH was 15.6. No, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So you just got to flip.
Yeah, okay.
But,
That's April?
April, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Easy to do. I basically do it, give Dawn the sheet, and then she basically, puts this together, so maybe she's just got
And on Appendix C in September, there was only one well sampled. Was that because the other wells were dry?
There must have been some reason as to why we couldn't get into it, yes.
Because if I look at flow rates for the various days of all the months, and that there's very little flow in July, August, and September.
Yeah, JFM does the monitoring and the groundwater, the monitoring wells around the site. So that, I would have to check back in that and look at his report and see that that's probably the reason. Yeah, there's just no volume there. I just can't remember off my head, you know, that far. Yeah.
That would be my assumption.
Oh, yeah, I'll check that too.
That's all I had.
Are there any other questions on the report? Okay, so we need a motion to resolve that council accepts the Kerwood Sanitary Sewer 2017 report as prepared by the chief building official. Mayor Stockman and Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Is there anything else, Jeff?
No, that's it.
Okay. And then a motion to resolve that council accepts the report of the chief building official as presented. Councilor Sanders and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, so we're going to go back to our interim control bylaw with the final report. And we don't need a motion to do anything like that. Right? Perfect. All right, so I'm not sure who's going to be speaking, if it's Dirk or
I'm going to start, and everyone will correct me when I make a mistake.
Excellent.
So I guess I will. And I'll be perfectly frank. Jennifer and Aaron did all the work on this. So you've got the background report. Of course, this has been before you a number of times now. I looked back in the dates, and the first report was November, and then we dealt with it in December with some drafts of the documents, or preliminary drafts, I should say. Then you held the open house and the public meeting in January. We got a lot of good feedback, and then we had some follow-up to that, several more letters, and then Jennifer has also had a number of calls, and then she's followed up with some of the people that were particularly interested to sort of explain where we are now. January 5th, you considered what was titled a final report, and you directed I think 4 more amendments to be made. And they are, I would consider them minor. No changes to the official plan, proposed official plan amendment, but changes to the zoning bylaw related to the hotel and the height of the hotel. Jennifer did speak with Mr. Hanlon, and he's supportive of the changes as they are proposed for the hotel. Then there was the commercial plaza, 3 going to 6. And then some more wording on the visual screening, and really trying to help assist the people that area where they live, their backyards in Strathroy, Caradoc. They're up a bit higher there, and how the fencing and the buffering would work there. And then some mapping changes to Schedule 23B. So, aside from that, I believe that we have sort of made all the changes that were directed from staff. I think that so the recommendation is before you. That both the official plan amendment be adopted and that be forwarded to County Council for consideration, and that the zoning bylaw be approved, but that it would not come into full force and effect until the implementing the official plan amendment is approved by County Council. So, but certainly we'd be happy to answer any questions or comments. Or
is there any questions at all?
No.
No. So we have the recommendation there, which is it's recommended that that's exactly what Dirk just said, so I'm not going to repeat it, it's all good. Who wants to move and second that? Okay. And so that's moved by Councilor Sanders and seconded by Councilor McKinnon, and that's for both the amendment to the official plan and also the amendments for the zoning bylaw. All in one? Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, thank you very much for all your assistance in that. There's a lot of work that was put into that, and hopefully when it goes to County Council and everything else, it all gets approved, and we don't have any issues with the Ontario Municipal Board if we ever get there.
let's hope not.
Hopefully we don't. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So on to our next staff report, which is the the Public Works Manager's report, and I'll step out on this first one, which is in regards to the well failure at the Napier Garage, and hand the chair over to Deputy Stockman.
Jeff, you're on.
Deputy Mayor. This is a report coming forward, an important item that has come up. It started to show up early 2017. The Napier Garage had water issues all of last year, that they were running out of water in the well. So we've had people last year, before I arrived, there was an inspection of the well, of the pump, of the system itself by Lasky's in Strathroy. And to get through last year, they dumped some loads of water in, and the system works fine by filling the well back up. It's a shallow well, shallow dug well. The map shows it where it's located to the garage. I thought it was important to show you the location of where the well is. So basically, we're at a spot now where about every 4 weeks we're dumping a load of water into the well, and as that water gets used up and drains back away, maybe we have to replenish it. Over the winter, we found that it was a little bit erratic, and the guys ran out of water a couple times at the shop, which then led to them not having bathroom facilities at the shop. So talked to Kathy, and we put a temporary porta potty in for a backup, so the crews do have access to a washroom there. So basically, I kind of want to move forward on what kind of what 2018 will bring to the shop. So we're looking at I put down basically 3 options. One, we can continue just like we are. The water, it's working fine when you dump the water in. It's just a monthly cost. Put in number 2, an option number 2, where we can get the guys out of that shop. And then as long as the guys aren't using it as a workshop, and it can be a storage facility as the way it stands, without any extra work other than closing maybe. The well location, I should explain, is right on the property line. It's out in the road allowance private property area. So there's some concern, I had some concern there exactly where that well is. So my suggestion is, even if we took the guys out of that shop, we should at least close that well off because of the location of where it is. So I included a cost to plug the well, and that's by again, would be by a professional that does that. And then I gave a third one where looking at maybe putting a new well in on our property, and so that would solve the solution of the shop there. So, and you can see the costs involved with each of the options. Personally, I would recommend that we go ahead with a new well. I think that shop is important where it is. It supplies us with accessibility down in that bottom end, and that's basically was my thinking, is I would continue on with the shop there.
Comments, Gerald?
Yeah, first question, a new well, we'll be drilling a well or whatever.
Yeah.
What are the chances of, I don't think there's too many there. There's usually pretty good luck of having a dry hole, or I know across the road there's no problem finding water. It could be a bit sulfur in that area, but my recommendation would be close your old well and drill a new well, because I think the shop is in good enough shape, and that there's people there that everything is there except water. The washrooms, everything is in good working order. So in my opinion is I'd be decommissioning your well, obviously, and look for a new well.
Other comments?
I was actually looking at option 2, decommissioning the building and using it for storage only. But you think that we would really require that? We need 2 garages?
Well, I mean, once you pull the guys out and you decommission the well there, you're basically onto a storage facility. It doesn't mean that we can't review it and come back to it again, but once you've kind of started that process, and I think with closing it down, or not closing it down, moving it to a storage facility, I would look at more things than just the well there. I mean, I've seen this winter. I mean, I am new. I've seen this winter what it's like to have two guys out of that shop. It does. They respond quicker. It is nice to have guys down there. Does that mean we need 2 guys there? Well, we can run 4 guys out of the Adelaide shop if that's what we really wanted to do. It's not out of. That's why it's on the list as an option. But I personally, I like having the 2 options of 2 shops. This coming summer, we're doing a lot of road construction, or maybe a lot of road construction down there. The thinking is that would be our shop for the summer for working out of. So that's why I lean more towards number 3 at this point. And again, you can't really say what the future brings, but a well on a property to me is an investment for the property, even if we decide to sell it.
Sure enough. Thanks, Jeff.
You know what, the reason I recommended a new well, because you know, I looked at this shop and we were gonna put either steel roof or asphalt. We went to asphalt, probably was a difference of $15,000 at that time. And I thought maybe we should put a well in there and keep that place the way it is. So actually, you know, if we, you know, I'm only guessing, I know what a new well would be. But between the 2, you know, we saved 15 on the roof, and the roof is obviously good enough for 15 years. And if there's a new well there, it has a value to the property, like Jeff says, so. That's the reason I went for option 3.
Marianne?
Yeah, I kind of agree, assuming that there's water to be found if we dig. Because that, and you know the area better than I do, but there are parts of this township where you could put a dry hole in every 10 feet. So assuming that there's water there, I think that's the better idea. I mean, even for things like emergencies, it's nice to have things on each side of the township, because I imagine with a grader, maybe not a truck, but I mean, move a grader across this township is what, a half-a-day project? So it's we're fairly far flung from Adelaide to the south end of the township. So I would agree with option 3.
Just my comments, what I had wrote down was what Gerald has alluded to, and probably would have to ask Curtis, how much water is available there, as far as, you know, where the other wells are, and, you know, and how good they are, how deep they are.
I know the one across the road when Rick McLean built that new house right next to where Curtis Sloan place is. I think the well is 50 or 60 feet, and it's 20-30 gallons a minute, but it's sulfur. So, but that's, you know, that's the only well I know of, and I think they drilled a well right beside the church. I think Curtis' dad did, there's a well there. So I think the water should, yeah, I'm guessing there should be water.
And my other comment, and I know some people may not believe in it or not, but I would assume that we witch the well first.
Yeah.
And we do have somebody that can do that, lives right across the road. So.
And that's what I've been told.
So my thought all along was going with number 3. So we have a motion here somewhere. Whereabouts is it?
Number 20.
Number 20.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. Resolve the council include In the 2018 budget under facility maintenance, a well replacement for the Napier garage to include the cost for plugging and sealing of the well to be abandoned as recommended by the Public Works Manager. Mover?
I'll move.
Gerald, seconder. Mary Ann, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. You can come back in, Curtis. And just one question, what's the availability of water in that area?
There hasn't been a well put down there in years, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's
exactly
one line next
but
to you.
yeah, so that was done
That was a
probably
good
in
well.
1990.
Yeah.
There was a well put down on this map.
Then your dad had a well next to the church?
Yeah. Just this.
Thought there was.
That was a new well.
You never know though. There's
No, no,
there's
I-
not-
no, I'm not saying that.
There will, I would assume that it will be sulfur.
It will be salt.
It will be sulfur, and it'll be
Yes.
probably about 7 to 8 feet. That's
Yeah,
my guess. Yeah.
yeah.
But
So, you know, we'll get a winch drill to start with. I mean, that's what we're gonna do obviously, and there's a few of them around, so. It's like anybody else, you have to try, that's all.
And if you get a dry hole,
Well,
well,
if we get a dry hole, we get a dry hole. That's-
then
that's the way
you
it
put
is.
another one down.
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Jet, what's your next report?
Okay, another one. This one here has popped up, and it came to light through the January winter storm that kind of rolled through there at the start of January. I was contacted by the county of Middlesex because they were concerned about salt usage by us. So basically, a little background is the Adelaide shop uses the county facility at the corner down here at Center Street in Egremont. And we pick up sand and salt there to use in the north end. Generally, the loads are taken out and recorded, and then at the end of the year, and at the end of the calendar year is what we pay. So it'll be the start of January 1st. No, wrong. It is the start of the winter season, and so we pay for the fall through the year, and then we send the invoice in the late part of the fall to the county, and they send us back an invoice. So anyways, the original agreement was a breakdown of 80% sand and 40% salt. So as the load goes out, it's based on tonnages. They base 80% of that to be sand and 20% of it to be salt, and then bill us accordingly on those percentages. So when I was contacted, they were concerned about us, the fellas using more than 20% salt per load, and inquiring and just knowing how we do winter maintenance, we use more than 20% per load of salt going out. I think originally it really wasn't a big deal because we used so little compared to the county, but I think what happened was during that little stretch in there, there was so much salt use, it was red flagged where the salt was all going, so I think that's what triggered this. Another little explanation too is we usually take out very much straight sand for gravel roads, and we take out or loads with a lot more salt content in them for our tar and chip roads or our hard surface roads for in town so as we get rid of gravel and increase our hard tops, we use more salt per volume of loads going out. So if you're wondering why all of a sudden we've used more salt over the years, as we gradually increase our hard tops, we use more percentage of salt on the roads. And a little bit of that also has to do with traffic volumes. You'll see your pikes, mulliferries, wood, that sort of thing. They also get more material, more of the salt, so we can keep them, basically in better shape for the traffic count that's on them. So anyways, Again, this was requested by the county. I agree that we do use more salt than what was originally in the agreement. So basically, that was what was put forth to me. What it really means to us as a municipality, there will be an increase obviously because we're buying more salt. Based on the 2017 numbers, if we went with the increase, it would be about a 20% increase in the amount we paid, which, if you look at the numbers, would be about $7,500 on last year. So on 2017, the invoice would have been increased by about $7,500. So that's what we're dealing with now. Keep in mind, last winter was an easy winter. This winter's a hard winter. So there will be, it will be a little bit different this winter just because of the increase in activities. My recommendation is that we accept it. I mean, it's pretty hard not to at this point. But I think the key to this is I think we need to look at what we're paying, how we're doing this, how our sand and salt storage is really functioning here, and what the future maybe is, whether we're agreeable to this or whether we're not. Because there is a lot of other things to take in mind that we don't have to have a storage facility. That's a bonus. But at the same time, then we're stuck with decisions like this that come along, right? So there's a bit there. So I think there's a follow-up to this this report. But at this point, I think I'm throwing that recommendation out there that we accept it.
Motion, move in seconder to accept the recommendation of the 60-40 ratio. Councilor Stockman, and seconded by Councilor Hendricks. Any discussion? Councilor Stockman?
So I gather then that the dome or the storage tab, it's not pre-mixed. It's like 3 buckets of sand and 2 buckets of salt.
Yes. So the sand that goes in is treated with a small amount of salt. So the sand in the pile, so it doesn't freeze, that it stays loose, and really it's very close to that 80-20. So if we went in there and got basically straight sand out of their pile, it should be very close to the 80-20, which is what the big pile is in there. But as soon as we go and freshen up or put extra salt into our load, that's what's increasing the percentage. And it's about a bucket per truck. So the guys will go in, load up roughly 3.5 buckets of sand, and then add a bucket of salt to the load to mix it up and make it hotter. When they're doing the hard jobs. If they were going to go out and do the gravel, it would be a straight sand mix on it. So
the 60-40 may not be, quote unquote, the perfect number. 70-30 might be a better number.
Yes. Yeah, there is an argument there, and I put forth that how do we, because we do take out sometimes 80-20.
Yeah.
Sometimes depending what the load is, it is not 60-40. The problem is how do you come up with one percentage, and that was the percentage they wanted to go with. So,
Councilor Sanders?
Do we have any sand at Metcalfe at the?
Yeah,
What percentage comes out of here, and how much is how much do we have over at the Metcalfe shop?
So Metcalfe, we bring in our sand, raw sand. Now we still buy our salt through the county. We buy it out of we get it out of the Park Hill. And again, it goes on the invoices invoiced to us. We mix our own stuff down in Napier. It runs, I believe it's around 30% down there, a strong 30%. We usually fill the shop down there about twice a winter at the start, and we filled it up in January again.
So my question is, well, how much do we use out of Napier in total? compared to out of the county? Is it half or is it 60-40 or?
To be honest, to give you a better number, I'd have to go back and pull the usage, but it is a little less. I know that for sure. That comes out of the Napier than it does out of the volume. Yeah, I wouldn't want to give you an exact total, but I bet we're pulling about 20% more out of, 25% more out of the county building than we are down there.
So all the paved roads, my road, Winners Drive, all comes out of the county?
No, it comes out of Napier. So everybody, any of the Napier shop always fills out of
No,
their
but
shop.
you were saying because 40 we use more salt on the paved roads, and those are paved roads, and I wonder, do we draw it out of Napier?
Oh, I
Because
see
it's
what you mean.
right there.
So what they'll do down there, so ours is mixed up at a strong 30 or 25 to 30% down there, because we can't distinguish between the two. We don't have enough room to store the salt
Right.
to add to it. So they pick the 30. So if they go out and sand the gravel, it's a little bit too much for the gravel. But when we go to the paved roads, Coulter will use more material coming out of the truck than the guys up here. So he's getting the salt down, but he's using more material down on the road. So is it ideal? No. It'd be nice to be able to control the salt that goes into the loads for what the needs are. So what they do down there is they just crank up the material coming out, and that gets the salt.
Okay, that's it.
So it's moved by Deputy Stockman and seconded by Councillor Hendricks. It's resolved that Council accepts these 60-40 ratio of sand to salt as requested by the County of Middlesex and recommended by the Public Works Manager. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then the second recommendation there is resolved that Council directs staff to prepare a report on the township's use and storage of sand and salt, including an analysis of the cost and benefit between having municipally owned storage versus using the county facilities. Councilor Sanders and Deputy Stockman. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Is there anything else, Jeff?
No, that's
Okay. Any questions at all for Jeff?
I just heard more comments on how good the roads were in this winter.
It's a little different.
I told him we haven't seen the building.
No.
But the thing is, they're happy with the roads, so that's important.
Yep.
And we just need a motion to resolve that Council accepts the report of the Public Works Manager as presented. Councilor Cannon and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. I'm just still waiting for time. So our next staff report is from our clerk, Jennifer.
So this one report is pertaining to the emergency response plan that I gave to council on January 22nd council meeting. And I'm just looking for feedback from the draft emergency response plan with the amendments so that I can prepare all new ones for all council and staff.
Any questions on this? Feedback? Deputy Stockman?
I think I sent Jennifer what I picked up anyway while I was awake reading it.
Nothing?
No, I sent mine to Jennifer.
Perfect. Excellent. So we need a motion then to resolve that Council accepts the amendments to the emergency response plan as recommended by the clerk/alternative emergency management coordinator, that staff be directed to bring bylaw back to the next council meeting to adopt and amend the plan, and that staff be directed to circulate the amended plan to council, staff, CEMC, and alternates, and any outside agencies. Do we move on seconder for that? Councilor Cannon and Councilor Hendricks. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
my next report is on the procedural bylaw update. It was taken to council on February 5th, and I'm looking for feedback from council on the amendments that were sent out at the last council meeting.
Any comments? Senator Stockman?
Same deal, I sent the info in.
I sent mine to Jennifer as well.
It's an end.
Must be
That's
perfect.
okay.
It is good.
Councilor Hendricks, any?
Yeah, I read it, but I didn't absorb enough of it. But I didn't see anything. Nothing stood out to me in my cursory reading of it.
So we need a motion to resolve that council accepts the amendments to the procedural bylaw as recommended by staff, and that staff be directed to bring the bylaw back to council at the next council meeting for adoption. Deputy Mayor Stockman, and seconded by Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
And my last report is regarding a resolution that was brought forward by Mayor Smith at the last council meeting. I did have one little change that I talked to the mayor about. I wondered if it would be beneficial to include all of the municipalities along the Highway 402, right straight from Landon County into Warwick, Adelaide Metcalfe, all the way to the City of London. I know the City of Sarnia has these digital array communication signs. I don't believe there's any east of Sarnia until you get to London again. I'm looking for feedback if council would like to move that along to the other municipalities, as well as the CAO and I discussed about including to send this to Ontario Good Roads, AMO, and of course the Minister of Transportation, Premier Kathleen Wynne, MPP for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, Mountain, and Naughton.
Any discussions? Mover and seconder for the recommendation? No. Deputy Mayor Stockman?
A couple of things. I looked at my yellow map book, and if we were to put one at every every interchange, that's 13 interchanges, sign on both sides, so that would be 26, but the last one and the first one you wouldn't need to put a sign on, so that'd be 24 signs. I think that's a little bit of overkill. I was looking at, I took the map and I was thinking Mondawmin, 79, and Delaware. That would evenly space, and then you could get away with basically 6 signs. I think that would be probably more palatable as far as cost-wise, because I don't know what those signs are worth.
I have no idea.
I would imagine they're not cheap. So I guess I would like to see it, strategically located, and the suggestion would be Mondawmin, 79, and Delaware. Because then you're already into the 402 a little bit. You've got enough time to get them to go off at that flyover or the next interchange without having to go a lot of expense. And then the last section about digital signs along all provincial highways, I don't think that's a fly at all. Will go at all. So I was going to take that out.
It probably won't, but it's
It doesn't hurt to ask.
It doesn't hurt to ask. It can always change, but I think 20 signs is. I do believe that's a bit of an overkill. I can see that one. To go to all provincial, that won't fly. We know that won't fly, but.
How many provincial highways are in the area?
2, 4, 401, 402, 7.
7 is county, all
No, there's some
No, no, and what's number 3, that's not county. Is it?
isn't that provincial?
I think it is.
Yeah. Like we're talking provincial highways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, looking back at this again, we could always apply for this and see what kind of feedback we get. You can always go down to 3, you know, that'd be my next request, but I say, let's start here and see what kind of an answer or what do we get. I think I know what we're gonna get, but it's worth trying. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Dinner's talking?
I think we'd be better off asking for a reasonable amount as opposed to asking for more. That's my opinion.
So if we ask for a real amount, they might go for it, and if we ask for something ridiculous, they say, forget it. Is that your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any
That's
other
me.
questions,
Yeah,
comments,
no.
or give a mover and seconder, or any amendments you want to put forward?
So we should decide whether we're gonna, did you propose that every,
What
was the original?
The original was at the, what was it?
Hickory.
At Hickory and at Curwood Road. And then was discussing, we thought, why not expand it? Because that's specifically for, you know, Adelaide Metcalfe. Why not have it opened up for not just, you know, not just the municipality, not just the township, but all the townships across the 402. And I'm in agreement with Councillor Sanders that you're better off to ask for more and see where that request goes to get something done in comparison to asking for a specific item. And that's where I think when Jennifer brought up the idea of having it that it's all the exits, or, you know, more than just the 2 requested, that you'd be able to have more flexibility as to where those signs would go. So
My next question is, are we gonna contact, let's say, Broadcooter? Are we gonna get them all on that degree on the same thing and then apply, or is that the plan here?
So Jennifer, want to explain how
Yeah.
it works?
So if I may, Mayor, how it would work is I would send out this resolution to all the municipalities that abut up to the 402. We get feedback from them, whether they're in agreement or not. If they're not, then we can bring it back to council and we can reduce the number of overhead signs that we find that might be appropriate along the 402.
Do you move or not? Do we?
Yeah.
I will move that we proceed.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor McKinnon. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
That is everything. Thank you.
So now we need to have a motion to resolve that council accepts the report as of the clerk as presented. Councillor Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Our next staff report is from our CAO treasurer, Catherine.
Thank you, Commissioner. The first item on my agenda is the accounts payable listing for the period February 2 to 15, 2018 in the amount of $207,310.70.
Okay, is there any questions on the accounts? Councillor Sanders?
Yes, the fire department, now that we got the fire chief here, I can't find it on my scroll here real quick, but there seems to be quite a large bill. Is it, can you explain what it was?
The large bill is the PPE, so that's turnout gear like bunker pants, coats. They're roughly $2,000 each. We got 4, so there's 8,000 roughly.
That's all I have.
Deputy Stockton?
A couple, on page 3, again, auto folder.
That's a folding machine that we purchased to do our tax bills and any large mail outs that we have.
Okay.
And it's already saved us probably about $400 in staff time just from one tax billing. So it is going to be well worth the investment.
Really good rate of return.
It was a
on
very good
investment.
rate of return, yes. Yes, it's been used already quite a few times, so.
And then two for, well, one for Jeff and then another which I'm going to just make a motion on. Page 7, right at the top, Mac 2 chain.
Yeah, that was map 2, the main chain in the conveyor chain down the middle, whether it was a chunk of salt or a piece of metal or a stick or something caught it. Bent the rungs all out of it, so that had to be replaced.
And then on page 6, I'll make a motion that we send Jeff and Coulter to the Anderson Road School. Because normally we do make a motion to send to.
And a seconder? Okay, Councilor Hendricks. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
Okay, is there any other questions on the accounts? Councilor Gannon or Councilor Hendricks?
No.
Okay, so we need a motion to resolve the council, where is it? Resolve that the accounts listing for the period February 2nd to February 15th, 2018 in the amount of $207,310.70 be approved. Councilor Kinnon and Councilor Sanders, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Item number 2 is in regards to the 2018 municipal insurance program. We received our information from Frank Cowan Company through HMS Insurance and Financial Services. We will see an increase in our premium of $989, which is 1.37%. We are one of the lowest in this area for our increase over the year. I've provided council with a copy of the page 12, which provides some other options that council may like to consider. One of them was the Mr. St. Clair alluded to was the increase for the equipment breakdown at the pump station. And I don't know if that would be in our best investment at this time. Our pumps aren't overly expensive and it doesn't cost us a whole lot to operate during the year. We don't have a significant amount of downtime for the year. So the increase of the $518 with the $2,500 deductible doesn't seem to be justifiable in this case. So council would like, I can invite HMS Insurance and Frank Cowan Company to attend a meeting and review the plan if you wish. Senior staff has reviewed most of the contents of it and everything seems to be in order.
When is the last time we had them down?
They were here last February.
That's what I thought.
We have no significant changes since last year.
So there's no need of us inviting them tonight, I don't think. I don't think so.
Is there any other questions at all for insurance?
One question, still $5,000 deductible, am I correct?
Item number 3 is in regards to the Main Street Revitalization Initiative. Council received notification that Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs Jeff Leal announced at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference the Main Street Revitalization Initiative. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has a funding allocation of $38,576. We still have not received any details on the requirements to obtain the funding, but it is for Main Street initiatives which improves along our main streets or for any improvements in business areas. So we're going to do some more investigation and hopefully come back with some additional information on what we could apply for to obtain the funding.
Deputy Stockman?
Just some thoughts on this. This might be something that could be used by existing businesses on the 81 corridor to do the quote-unquote gateway enhancements. Mm-hmm. And you set it up as, say, part grant and
it would be part of a community improvement program that we could establish.
Say a 40% cost share or 30% cost share or something like that. And I was actually even thinking, like, if we're looking at gateway feature, maybe we could tie in with, like, Fanshawe has students that do like, what is it, landscape maintenance stuff. University of Guelph has the program for landscape architecture. Maybe that's something where we could, tie something in to provide some professional, quote unquote, more professional input for some of the businesses. While I was working in the barn, I thought about that.
But in Coolidge, maybe, at the park or.
Prettying up Curwood.
Yeah.
We're just waiting to hear what the parameters
Yeah,
are
right,
before
exactly.
we set
Yep,
anything
no,
that we
good.
can do, but we do get the 38,576 is
Yeah,
our
I know, it's worth
allocation.
looking at, absolutely. Yeah.
Item number 4 is an update on the Suncor Adelaide Wind Project, the noise monitoring update. When we were deliberating about sending a letter of reference as requested by Suncor, there was a couple of existing concerns that had not been resolved. And so we followed up with Ann Harding from Suncor, and a copy of the response was provided to council. And it's just a summary of what they've done in regards to the 2 complaints. So we will keep on asking Suncor for updates as time goes on. And that's just for council's information. Item number 5 is an update on the logo design. There are some design options. CR Graphics is on their second round of providing concepts for the logo design. We are looking for some comments from council on anything you like, dislike, anything you would like to see changed, any suggestions on going forward.
Number 1 is too much like London's.
Yes.
Number 2, I don't understand, and
Yes.
I'm torn between 3 and 4.
Exactly.
What's the difference in 3 and 4? Tell me.
The background, it's a little
Oh, I
busier.
looked at it a couple of times.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
is
I
it?
had to do
Oh,
that too.
right.
There's a little bit,
Thank you.
it's a little busier, number 4.
Thank you. Councilor Cannon?
I had the same comments as Mary Ann did, and I like the block lettering rather than the fancy lettering on the italic side.
So which one do you like?
Either 3 or 4. I kind of
I
prefer
got like
3
4.
or 4 over 3
Yeah.
because of the,
It's brighter.
yeah.
I like 4 the best.
Ms. Hawkins?
I guess I'm the odd man out. None of them really turned my crank.
Oh, yeah, 1 out of 4.
The number 1, I think that looks like a Callisto herbicide label. Number 2, I honestly didn't know what that signified. And really number 3 and 4, I don't know what those lines are.
Fields.
No,
Oh,
what looks like a building.
yeah, a barn or
It's an A and an M.
It is an A and an M, but
Yes.
the A's not very
no,
A-ish.
it's pronounced.
Right.
It looks like H and HJM to me, but
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, no, I finally figured that out. That's an A and an M. And I like the yellow,
yeah.
I do. I like 4 the best, that's it.
So Kathy, what kind of direction do you want?
Just if council's wanting to see any more revisions, or are you wanting to see a bigger concentration of what A and M is? Maybe there's some tweaking to the A and the M that you would like to see, maybe a little bit more definable.
Anything else you want to,
No,
any other comments to go back to the designer?
no, of course
My comments are very similar to what Council always said, which is the number 1 does look like the City of London's. Number 2, I tend to agree. It's kind of confusing. I'm not really sure where it kind of came from. Between 3 and 4, I understand the reason why number 4 would probably be preferred over number 3. For myself, I think I like number 3 just a little more, just because it's one less color when you're looking at kind of putting it on a piece of paper or putting it on a sign or something, having that many different colors, it's sometimes gets a little confusing. So that's why I personally prefer number 3, but number 4 is fine as well. Motion some sort to go back, or
Oh, no, I can just take it back and come up with one for hopefully next council meeting, and come up with another final design based on 3 or 4. Preferably leaning towards 4 more than 3. Okay.
okay.
And I did ask what the red one was, and apparently it's an international symbol for agriculture.
Well, I had no idea.
Yeah. So that's what that
Same as the international symbol for farming.
Excuse me.
is. Okay. Item number 6 is in regards to the winter weather event, January 4th, 2018. As council knows, there was a bit of a storm on January 4th, 2018, and the 402 was shut down for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we opened on the Sunday. As a result, the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc did end up opening a warming center at the Gemini complex. We did not receive any notification from Strathroy when it opened, but we received it several hours later. In discussing in the morning, the CEO from Strathroy-Caradoc was in touch with me and just advised that they were winding it down and moving on and closing it up. We do not have a facility that would be appropriate or supplies that we could use for a warming center, and unfortunately Strathroy-Caradoc did not declare an emergency situation, so they have no opportunity for provincial assistance. And does council wish to consider providing any financial assistance to the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc during that snow event?
I think I said it at the last meeting, and I think we should show some kind of support. We don't have any facility, they have a good facility. I don't always agree with Strathroy does, but I think we should support them somewhat. I don't know how much, what amount, I don't want to say. But I think it should be something. Because there's certainly people from Adelaide Metcalfe or anywhere that came through here, got stuck here, ended up there. So I think we should support it somewhat.
Other comments or suggestions on the dollar amount? Councilor Hendricks?
Yeah, I agree that, I mean, they helped us out. If we had a spot, we would have had 2 people out for sure too. I think something in the neighborhood of a third is probably reasonable. That would be kind of the max I'm thinking.
What was the amount?
It's 58.78.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe $1,500. I don't want to say somewhere.
Thanks, Deputy Stockman.
I think a couple of things. The facility rental, that's just an internal accounting. So that's being paid from one department to another department. The staffing depends whether it's hourly or salary. So some of that may or may not be quote unquote a legitimate expense. And if we hadn't paid the bill in December, I'd be quite willing to spend some money or put some money towards it. But we paid a bill in December there that was quote unquote questionable. So
No, it was, I agree, but I still feel we should, even if it's $1,000, but I think we should do something. I mean, you know, just because they were like that, I didn't agree with that either, but that doesn't mean we have to be the, you know, I mean, this probably will happen again in the future. And I think it shows that, you know, we are reasonable and kind of trying to be neighborly and, yeah.
Okay. Kathy does have the invoice or the total amount and how those.
Yes, a sufficient amount of their the information that they provided to us was for management and staffing, which was probably almost $5,000 of that $5,800. They did receive $1,400 in donated equivalent, which included the dry cleaning of the blankets and the disinfecting of the cots, the Thursday evening food, and the Friday lunch. So they received about $1,400 in donated goods and services through their emergency.
Is that off of the 5,800?
That's off of the 5,800.
Oh,
Total
okay.
cost was $7,278.93.
So the $1,500 came from people on Strathroy?
Yes. The
That's
dry
donations?
cleaning, Domino's donated pizzas, and the Fire Junction donated lunch on the Friday.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna move, we give them $1,000 and
Seconder? Councilor Hendricks. Any further discussion? Just one thing I just want to add, and I think Deputy Stockman alluded to it, which was the hall rental and also the staff time. And one thing that hopefully a future meeting will kind of resolve going forward with myself and Kathy, and then with the CAO and Stratford Caradoc Mayor Vanderhayden, is ensuring that Adelaide Metcalfe is including in those things and having it so it's split with staff time instead of having it that it's all pushed back onto Stratford Caradoc. Whereas if we are asked, which we unfortunately weren't asked in this last snow event, if we were able to help, I'm sure if we were asked, we would be there. We would lend a hand with our staff as well. So that's just my own comment. I am quite pleased to obviously support this, to give them the $1,000 because it was something that needed to happen. But hopefully going forward, we do have some type of agreement that we are asked for help instead of
I agree.
informing us afterwards.
Yep.
With that, so a motion to I don't know what the actual wording is there, Jennifer.
Resolve that council approve $1,000 be paid to Strathroy Caradoc towards the $5,878.93 invoice for emergency.
Something.
Got
it.
If you may use the word donate instead of pay.
Donate? Okay, sure.
Yes.
There's no more discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our planning reports. So we need a motion to resolve that council convene as a committee of adjustment for the purpose of hearing minor variance application A01-2018 and consent application D01-2018 at 7:13 p.m. Councilor McGinn and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Yes.
I also noticed my employer here, so I'll have to declare conflict.
Certainly will.
And that's a conflict, I'm assuming, on minor variance application A01-2018.
That's correct.
Okay. And just before we start into those applications, just a reminder that the purpose of the following public meetings for the Committee of Adjustment are to give the members of the Committee of Adjustment as well as the general public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the applications before the Committee of Adjustment this evening, and then the committee will then consider the proposals. The public is advised that the comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record, available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal of a decision made this evening to the Ontario Municipal Board without having made a written submission to the committee, the board may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of the decision, please submit a written request to the township, and Aaron has a sign-up sheet there, which is provided for your convenience. So our first application is minor variance application A01-2018, which is the Burgrass Farm Limited, and we have George Sinker, correct, here as the agent instead of, I'm assuming, Laverne Curtis.
Mr. Curtis couldn't be here this evening, so I told him I would
Excellent.
teach it.
Excellent. So I will have, is it Aaron, we will be going through the report?
Before the committee is a planning report recommending favorable consideration of minor variance application A01-2018, submitted by Laverne Kirkness for Burgrass Farms. The subject property is located on the north side of 2nd Street and includes 6 lots intended for single detached dwellings and 2 lots for future residential development. The purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it relates to minimum lot width requirements for 3 lots in the approved Grogas subdivision. Specifically, the applicant is seeking relief from section 11.2 of the zoning bylaw to permit the reduced lot width of 28 meters for lot 1, 27 meters for lot 2, and 26 meters for lot 4 within the plan of subdivision. Where the minimum lot width requirement for the UR zone is currently 30 meters. The lands have previously been subject to a number of planning applications, including obviously plan of subdivision that was approved by the county, as well as the removal of a holding symbol and rezoning by the township. So the Planning Act provides 4 tests to evaluate minor variance applications, and I will review them now. The first is this variance considered minor in nature? The lots are sufficiently sized to accommodate dwellings which are otherwise in compliance with the zoning bylaw. So staff would say that yes, it is minor in nature. Is the variance an appropriate use of the land? Surrounding land uses are agricultural, environmental protection lands, and residential in the form of single unit dwellings. As the variance is to facilitate residential development, it is considered to be compatible with surrounding land. The third test is, does the variance maintain the intent of the official plan? The intent of the official plan is met as the subject lands are to be used for residential purposes as permitted within the residential area designation of the official plan. And finally, does the variance maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw? The intent of the width requirement within the zoning bylaw is to ensure that lots are sufficiently sized to accommodate appropriate and sufficient setback building envelopes. The applicant has demonstrated that the reduced frontage lots will have sufficient lot area to do so, and the intent of the zoning bylaw is being met. The application was circulated to the prescribed agencies and surrounding property owners, and no concerns have been brought forward so far. It is the opinion of staff that the tests of the Planning Act have been satisfied, and as such, staff recommend that the requested variance be granted by the committee.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. George, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think that sums up the position. The main feature, I believe, is that your zoning bylaw now calls for 1,850 meters squared in the urban residential zone, and these lots are all lot 1 is 2,052 meters squared, lot 2 is 1,916 meters squared, and lot 4 is more than double. It's 3,944 meters squared. And what happened on this was that perhaps someone didn't anticipate the width of the widening for the county's road widening was 7.943 meters. And that sort of scrunched up lot 1 and 2 a little bit. And I'm not quite sure, I mean, this is a huge lot, lot 4, that backs onto the woods here. And I'm not quite sure why at the arc, at the building setback, that 30 meters wasn't achieved. But clearly, the tests are all met when you determine whether variance should be granted. And so for those reasons, I see no reason why the municipality wouldn't grant these variances.
Okay, thank you. Before we have any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment, is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to the application? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? The recommendation in front of us, and that is to grant the minor variance application. So move and second for that. Councilor Hendricks and Councilor Sanders. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
I'm pleased that the variance has been granted because the plan was registered on February 7th. I believe there was some agreement that we could proceed to register the plan of subdivision. So in addition to that, what we prepared to leave with you tonight is I've given you a copy of the registered plan. There's also an easement plan for drainage easement. And we've prepared transfers for the blocks 9, 10, and 11, the 0.3 meter reserves that are being conveyed to the municipality. And we've also prepared the transfer easement over parts 1, 2, and 3 at the rear of certain of the lots. So there's a spot there's on the easement acknowledgement direction. There's actually 2 spots to be signed. So I'll just leave these with the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay, next we have application which is BO1 2018, the Guybridge Brothers Inc. And I don't see Barbara Rosser there with Guybridge. Spurt. Did you get Betty Ann's letter with that thing? Did you get Betty Ann? Yeah. Sorry. We'll just wait until Councilor Kenny comes back in. She had a conflict on the previous application. Go ahead, Mayor.
So this is for consent application B01-2018. The subject property is located at 2894 Nafferton Drive. The owners are Guybridge Brothers, being represented by Barbara Rosser, who is not here this evening.
John.
Okay. So the report that we put forward is offering favorable consideration of the consent and recommends conditions of approval for the proposed access easement. The subject property is located on Nafferton Drive, lying between School Road and Pike Road, and contains a surplus farm dwelling, a single solar panel, and its associated electrical servicing, and an area which is currently being used for agricultural purposes. The applicants have previously received conditional approval from the committee to sever the surplus dwelling with the solar panel to be located on the retained parcel, and that was application B13-2017. A condition to this consent, as condition to this consent, Committee of Adjustment has imposed the requirement that the electrical servicing for the solar panel be wholly contained within the boundaries of the lands to be retained, which, to put into effect, required relocation of the underground servicing as well as the connected hydro pole. Applicants are now requesting consent to establish an access easement over a portion of the severed parcel based on the financial implications associated with relocation. So the access easement is proposed to be approximately 3 meters wide and extends from the northerly boundary of the lot to Nafferton Drive. In lieu of the requirement, in association with legal counsel, the applicants have pursued the approval of a severance and shared use agreement between the respective landowners to facilitate the legal access to the solar panel, its associated wiring, and access to the transformer, which is located on the hydro pole on the severed parcel. This agreement will be registered on title pursuant to the Planning Act. The agreement and easement will be removed from title if the removal of this solar panel is to take place. Planning staff also recommend that if the committee supports this application, Condition 11 of Consent B13-2017 be amended to reflect this alternative approach. Currently, it is the condition which outlines that the servicing is to be relocated. It seems appropriate to amend it to reflect the change in how they're dealing with the servicing. So the application was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. There were no big concerns. The township's chief building official indicated no concerns, provided that the new owner is aware that no structures are to be built over the easement. The St. Clair Region Conservation Authority indicated no concerns, However, they did indicate that portions of the subject property have been identified as being within a vulnerable area or area where drinking water threat policies apply. Based on the above, we have made several recommendations. So we recommend approval based, subject to conditions. Do you want me to review all of the conditions? Sure. That the certificate of consent under section 53 of the Planning Act shall be given 1 year of the date of the notice of decision. The request for the certificate of consent shall be accompanied by a written submission that details how each of the conditions of consent have been fulfilled. Condition 2, that 2 copies of the reference plan as prepared by a registered Ontario land surveyor defining the easement are subject to the satisfaction of the township. Condition 3, that an acknowledgement and direction be prepared by the applicant's solicitor for the electronic transfer of documents. Further, that application for consent B13-2017, condition 11, be amended to that the electrical servicing providing connection to the existing single solar panel located on the lands to be retained by wholly contained within the boundaries of the land to be retained, or that an easement be obtained across the severed lands in favor of the retained lands to provide access to the electrical serving to the satisfaction of the township. And finally, further, that the severance and shared use agreement be endorsed by the township and registered on title of the severed lands.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. John, do you have anything you'd like to add or any comments?
I should have read that. Because the Barb is familiar with it. No, I think it's pretty complicated, is it? Or it's pretty detailed.
My report, sir?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all straightforward, clear as mud.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Before we have any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment, is there anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to the application? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Deputy Mayor Stockman?
I did send my comments to Kathy and Aaron before. I guess I have a concern that this was a condition that was set out, and now we're changing that. It sets a precedent because I think that, you know, somebody's, you know, it's going to cost too much to move the electrical lines. Somebody else that's gone through a severance of surplus farm dwelling may very easily say that you know, it's going to cost too much to put in an extra access. So I'd like to have a shared access point as opposed to putting in a new access. So I think it sets a precedent, and I can't support it.
Yeah, and just like if we didn't go about this way to reroute everything, like we had a plan with Ontario Hydro One, they wanted something like $9,500, $10,000 to put up a new pole and a transformer, and then Gerson wanted at least $5,000 to $10,000 for their underground work, so like $20,000 to reroute everything. So this is the way to go about this.
I'm lost. That's the solar panel.
And this is where the wires run now.
Right.
Originally, we asked them to reroute the wires around the severed property.
So that solar panel doesn't go with this, it goes with.
It goes with the farmland.
Right.
Do you understand, Council Standards, what the application is?
Well, I do. I see a solar panel, I see new wiring, and the existing, I didn't realize where the existing or where it was before. So why are we moving it over? Why are we taking it?
No.
If I may, we're not moving the wiring. That is where the existing wire goes from Napperton. It follows. It runs parallel to the laneway going back, right past where that shed is. It's been removed, and then it goes on to where the severed or the retained portion is, back to the solar panel. And all it is doing is providing a legal right for any work that needs to be done within that right of way for the solar panel only. It doesn't provide access to the property for any other reason other than to repair the wires that are required in the land to run the hydro from the solar panel to the transformer at now.
So if there's any maintenance to be done on that solar panel, they have a right to go in there.
Correct.
That's it.
Right. Correct.
So when Nick was referring to saying we should have another access.
Well, I'm like, this was one of the conditions for the severance was that the electrical line be holding on the retained portion. If I look at other applications where they've questioned about putting in an extra access to the field, I think if we're granting this easement, that sets a precedent for somebody saying, well, we can use the existing laneway because we had that here not that long ago. We'll just have a shared agreement. And that once again defeats what the original conditions were on that severance, on this severance, on any one future or present.
No, I agree, but the reason we did that other access was because there was 9 acres of land involved. This was going to be somebody different, and that this access to get to that solar panel, how many times is that going to happen?
It isn't about the access, it's about the easement versus the precedent that it sets for somebody to say that laneway that I've got now is
only meant to be used for the house. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And not for the solar panel?
We're not, I'm talking in
So
general.
just kidding.
Okay, let's go back here.
Let's just step back.
I'm not going to argue with this all night, but.
So, Gerald, what you're asking is, with your original question, which was, you know, what's really going on. So what's happening right now is between those two lines on the map there, there's currently hydro poles going back to
correct
the solar panel. And the original condition was to have it so then those hydro poles would be moved onto the farmland, so it would have nothing to do with the house lot.
They're not poles, right? They're
Underground. Or
Part of it's underground.
So I want to go back. I just want to go back for a second. Okay. So those two lines come from that and are strictly for that solar panel. The house is not connected to those lines.
From the road?
Yes.
Yeah, is that?
So is the house connected to these two lines underground also, or is it separate?
The house is connected from the road to the pole, 2 poles. That's where the transformer is, connects to the house, and then
Above ground.
above ground, and beyond that is buried to the solar panel. And
So it goes from the house to the solar panel.
yes.
Or, no, I don't care if it takes me all night. So there's 2 red lines going back, and that's underground. Am I right?
Part of it is underground and part of it is above ground. You can see that there's 2 poles.
Pole shadows.
There's at least 2 pole
I don't
shadows
see
that are
any
showing.
We'll make it a little bigger.
There's one. There's one. That's a tree, but
Okay. And from the house to the solar panel, above ground to their house solar panel. So what's your argument?
So if I may try to explain, what Nick is suggesting is that if we allow this easement to happen for the hydro line and the hydro to get back to the solar panel, then that is no different than allowing an easement to happen for a mutual link. That's what
That could happen.
Yes.
Very true.
That's so he's saying what Deputy Stockman is saying is that if this was to go through, he believes setting a precedent for easements of that or whatever.
So what Nick is asking, hydro line moved on to get to the. So we gotta put in a new line.
No, basically the original condition that was included with the consent application, and that was what, condition 11, that the line be fully moved onto the retained parcel. See, and what the request is that that condition be changed to leave the existing line, but to make it an easement and to have a shared use agreement. So what I'm saying is,
Right.
if we allow this,
Yes.
then I know there will be individuals that will say, and they were here not that long ago, that laneway is perfectly good. We'll use that as a shared access agreement.
So the only other alternative is to move the laneway over and have the hydro line on the other side of the line. Am I correct?
In the second
No.
line.
The option to move the laneway isn't an option. They have to provide two accesses, one to the severed portion and one to the retained portion. What they need to do is somehow deal with the lines that are in the ground, which originally it was recommended through the planning department that they be moved off of the property and go right around the property to the solar panel. For the portion that is related to the solar panel. What, they still need hydro into their house, so we can't change that. But anything related to the solar panels be moved off the property and wholly contained on the retained farmland.
Okay, now I got it. And what did Mr. Geisler say is gonna cost?
About $15,000 to $20,000 to reroute everything. And then with this,
From the road in?
yes, yeah.
From the solar.
Yeah,
Oh, right from the road up is, yeah, we have to have a new line from the road
To the
to
solar.
the solar panel. So with the shared use agreement, and Hydro One has no problem with that shared pole, that transfer farmers. And the county, and with this easement, that gives us the right, if there's any repairs to be done on that very line, gives us the right if there is happen in the future, which probably never will. It's just,
Councilor Hendricks, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I don't see a hydro line the same way I see a laneway for sure, because you almost never use access to a hydro line. I mean, we've had solar panels in for 10 years and nothing happens to those underground wires. I'm not sure that if I was going to buy that severed property, I'd be really excited about that easement though. I think you might lose the value of the property just because, I mean, if I'm going to buy a country property, I'm not so sure I want somebody else's hydro line running through the middle of it.
that was a concern, and this property is sold conditioned upon this easement, and he's approved it, he's aware of it.
Yeah, I don't see it the same as a laneway. I mean, a laneway is something, machinery goes in and out and it bothers people. This, to me, is more like running a water line to a well that's on a retained property. And I see it more in that vein. So I don't have a real issue with it. If a person buying the property is content with it, then they're welcome to it. I wouldn't be that excited about it myself, but.
Mr. Kennedy?
I don't have a problem with it.
Mr. Sanders, you have it all figured out?
I got it all figured out.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we have the recommendation there for approval, and then also for the amendment to the consent P13 2017 conditional. Do we have a mover and seconder for that, or something for the alternative? Yeah, Councilor McKinnon. Okay, second. Okay, Councilor Hendricks. Any further discussion?
And there is one line that's missing from the resolution there, and that's in regards to the severance and shared use agreement being signed and registered on title. And the township is a party to that agreement only for the fact that there's no other way to get it on the title to the property, so that all future owners of that severed parcel know that that is an easement and that they do have to provide the other owner with the right to access the lines.
So actually, if I look at this again, I mean, if we have a well in the field, we gotta get an easement to the water for that house, so, yeah. As long as it's right.
It's in the report, it's not in here yet.
Okay. All right, so that was moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Hendrick. So there's no more discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I will do a motion to close the community adjustment and then you can. So just a motion to, we need to go out of the community adjustment. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. Yeah. And second, Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. We're just going to have a motion to have a recess for 5 minutes. Councilor Sanders and Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, actually, before the meeting, so we have at least 2 or 3 or 4 I knew it was.
I don't know if it's really technically in conflict.
Robin, do you want to say anything?
Not yet. Procedure bylaws. After next council meeting, so I don't know how it goes.
I don't know if I have a conflict or not. It's just easier.
Better to do
the neighbors perceive that as conflict.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all it requires.
That's right.
Actually, after some crazy guy actually my kids just they were out walking. For some reason, they didn't know where the property was. It's confusing, it's awkward. He used the same language on my kids as he used to do that. Internet on it.
Oh, wow.
Both the base one and the blue one.
I'm trying some more to bring back.
Okay, no, that's perfect.
And the plan is to, when the week comes off, front. I think I might just redo it all. Except for different directions.
I didn't get that motion. Oh, just when we close the court.
Oh,
no big deal.
7:42.
7:42.
That was by Sanders and McKinnon.
Okay, got Betty Ann. Thank you.
And then Sanders and Stockton.
They got the recess. Yeah.
It's a little
I assumed you would do that.
No, I don't.
I just thought it's easier sometimes to read them all the time. Sometimes I don't think we attached it because it's
Well, it was the last time, because that's when the game got into it. Oh, yeah. There's two scenarios, we get share, subject to set, we get ITA from county, and public safety. We'll have a joint conversation, that's why it's so drains, and there's still two more staff.
Still, yeah, 2 more staff reports. Just like the rest of That's for Kathy.
That's coming up next. That's coming up. Don't get rid of it yet.
Famous owl capture.
It doesn't matter. You want to sit there like that, it's a little easier. You don't have your back towards everybody.
What do the neighbors do?
Don't they all sit over there?
He says that he had Karen for one of
Okay, so we have a motion to reconvene. Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, so next we have our notice of consideration of drainage works. So we need a motion right now to resolve that the engineer's report dated July 14, 2017 for the repair of Phillips Drain 2017 be considered. Councilor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay. Before we go through the report, I'd just like to ask if anybody in attendance in our gallery is a party to the drain, and that's the Phillips Drain 2017. You just state your name for the record. We'll start on this side and work our way over.
Andrew Campbell.
Do you want to address too? Okay.
Ian Bryant.
Urban Bryant. Gary Akers. Charlie Towers. Alan Douglas. Wayne Campbell.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have Mike DeVos here from Streets Associates at the front here, as well as our Drainage Superintendent, Jim Reeve. I'd like to ask Mike if you'd like to review the report for us.
Okay. The report before you was prepared in accordance with sections 4 and 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing municipal drains and to the construction of a new municipal drain. There is a portion in the middle of the drain that is currently a water drain, so it's not covered under the Drainage Act. It is an existing drain and it functions. There is provincial legislation that governs it, but not the Drainage Act itself. So this report had to deal with that. The current Phillips drain is the open portion. The middle piece was called the Goff Ward Drain from the ditch up to Thames Road, and then the portion upstream of that is called the Johnson Benoit Drainage Works. It was dated 1965. We did have meetings with the landowners. It was requested that a new municipal drain be constructed of the proper size and depth for today's design standards and the watershed as it currently exists. We did do the preliminary design and have a meeting with the landowners to review the preliminary costs. There were a few adjustments made and the report submitted. The report before you proposes to start with 12-inch diameter pipe at the top end and gradually get bigger to a point where it's 24-inch diameter tile at the bottom end before it dumps into the existing open ditch. The open ditch would be cleaned out in the upper half, and then the lower half would not need a new or any sort of bottom clean out. We do provide a grade for future maintenance. There is a relatively small culvert pipe near the bottom of the drain that we are recommending be improved to bring it up to today's design standard as well. There also will be catch basins put in at the roads to help get both surface water and air into the drain and provide inspection points and repair points if required in the future. The existing drains themselves will be destroyed as part of the project, so the old drains will not be in place. And in the Campbell property, there is actually an older drain as well, older than the 1965 drain that would be connected into this drain at a few locations to try and make sure that any of the private tiling that's there now is brought over into our new drain versus going parallel with the drain itself. The new drain is located where the 1965 drain was, but we need to have a few connection points to make sure we get all the subsurface tile. Stop for other questions.
Okay. Before we do that, just to make sure everyone understands that this is an opportunity for ratepayers to address concerns specific to the proposed construction and the total cost. The individual assessments will be addressed at the quarter revision, which is planned to be on March 19th. Is there any questions on the construction?
I got one question. How do you determine how much land feeds into a tile? The one I'm looking at specifically is the Cowell property. It only says 5 hectares is, but the whole farm's drained into that bottom half, or into the bottom, the top of the drain.
Just want to make sure I get the right spot. Yeah, there's 5.2 hectares that's assessed. That area is based off of previous reports and surrounding reports. So it is a combination of two different things. We typically don't go out in the field and measure unless there's a request from particular landowners. If they think that the lines in the areas that were provided in these old reports were inaccurate for whatever reason, then we would actually go measure.
It's less the lines, it's more the subsurface. Like the farm's all tiled to it.
I believe, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I would have to go back through the file, but I believe that we do have some of the tile maps for that property, and a lot of it is taken to other drains. This watershed, I believe, matches the information that we had as far as the tiling goes. I can double check that, but that's my recollection. And if I find something, I can let you know. But there is quite a bit of drainage. There's a drain, I think, down at the southeast part off the map, down in here somewhere. And there's also another drain that way. And I believe this tiling here runs straight that way, and this stuff comes across and goes down that way as well. So, again, I can double check that. If there has to be a revision, I can make that recommendation to council before the next meeting. So I'll give them a response before they send the notice to the next meeting out as to what I found.
Is there any other questions? Okay, Jim, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
No, I do not, thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions at all from council? So, motion here that is resolved that the engineer's report on the Kill Train 2017 dated July 14, 2017 be adopted as presented. Is that the recommendation you'd like? Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stockman, second by Councilor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And then we have a motion to set the Court of Revision, which is resolved that the Court of Revision for the Phillips Drain 2017 be set for March 19, 2018 at a time to be determined. Councilor Sanders, second by Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll see you on March 19th. Moving on to the next drain, which is the McKean Drain 2017. We have a motion to resolve the engineer's report dated December 20th, 2017 for the repair of the McKean Drain 2017 be considered. Councilor Kinnan and Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, is there anyone in the gallery that is a party to this drain? That's it. That's it. Okay. Okay, Mike, you want to do the report?
Yeah, this report was also prepared in accordance with sections 4 and 78 of the Drainage Act. We'll be working on the existing McKean drain, and we call that the main drain. And there will also be the construction of a new branch called Branch A. There was a request initially to construct a branch servicing the lower parts of lot 22 and 23, just south of Royal Drive and east of Center Road and High Street. There is an existing private tile that's quite old and shallow that services that area now and is very important as far as design and depth goes. We did design a new drain and are proposing an 8 and 12-inch diameter branch tile drain with catch basins and a line fence. We are also looking at improving and replacing the existing main drain from the junction of that downstream to the upstream side of Penn Street. There was some private work that the county did to the road crossing itself and subdrain since the time of the last report. The last report on the McKean drain was done in 1992, and it was from the road downstream. So there was a little piece in there that the county took upon themselves to do in the meantime, and so we would be looking at incorporating that pipe as part of the McKean drain and abandoning the old piece that was referenced in the previous reports. We are also recommending that an offset catch basin with a fairly substantial lead be installed over to where the water flows out of the field near the intersection of Penny Street and Wardell Drive to try and capture as much surface water in the field and maybe retain some of the topsoil without it going into the road ditch and actually filling up the road ditch. The problem now is that the surface water without tiles that are sufficiently sized, so there's a lot of surface water that comes down through there and delivers topsoil and creates a headache for the road ditching as well. So that will help reduce that. I mean, these drains are what we consider low flow drains. I tell that to every landowner that I deal with. There will be rain events such as today that you will definitely see surface water continue to go over. Now the intensity and the frequency and the duration of that overflow won't be as long, which will hopefully help satisfy the landowners enough that they don't need grass waterways or anything like that. I can stop now for questions.
Okay. Is there any questions at all? Natalie or Junior? Jim, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I have nothing.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Okay. So a motion to resolve that the engineer's report on the McKean Drain 2017 dated December 20th, 2017 be adopted as presented. Councilor Kinnan and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And motion to resolve that the Court of Revision for the McKean Drain 2017 be set for March 19th, 2018 at a time to be determined. Councilor McKinnon and Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Did you talk to Mike about the ward drain extension, the ward drain extension tender?
Well, we have
Do we have
talked
a
about it, yes.
recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we may, just skip ahead before Mike leaves. Under my reports, and Jim and I opened tenders this afternoon, and one of them was for, we had the ward drain tender, which we tendered out. You'll see a copy. It will be the number 5, 2018 on your desk tonight. We tendered it out. We received one tender back. So Jim and I had a discussion about it. We did not open the tender. We have left it sealed. We decided to hold off because there was only one and we weren't sure what to do. So we contacted Mike, and I don't know if Mike has any comments he'd like to offer to council, whether we should re-tender and try to get more tenders, or we accept the one and move forward.
Yeah, you have the choice of doing either. Both have the merits to doing that. If you don't open it, then it's better for the contractor or contractors that either didn't tender or did tender. And at that point, as long as the submitted price is within 133% of the estimate, then you would almost be obligated to proceed if you're comfortable with the contractor. The contractor that did submit is not one that I've dealt with on a municipal agricultural drain. I have dealt with the contractor company before on heavier construction, more urban type storm sewer road type construction, so I think they're fully capable of doing the work. Just I haven't had the experience of working with them in this sort of setting. There is no long distance tile machine work on this drain. It is 2 bigger culverts with a little bit of surface work in between. So I think that they're capable, but the bigger question would be if you want to not open the tender and re-tender versus opening it in hopes of having a decent price and just proceeding. Why there was only one submission is a bit of a mystery. There are a fair number of contractors that can do that type of work and typically do tender. One of them, I believe, was in error of what the closing date might be. But as to a few of the others, I don't know why they wouldn't. So it's a bit of a difficult situation to make that determination, but I'll leave it in your hands. That's what I'm going to
If I can make a comment here, and Mike maybe contradict me here, but in a drain like this, my experience has been that there is a tendency to have higher prices because it's more of a landscaping type of project. There's a lot of grading and overflow swale on a yard that I'm not too sure whether that had some of the merits of why a couple of the other contractors didn't bid. That's speculation. I can't say that's part of it. As Mike said, we tendered 3 other drains. One contractor did not bid any of them, and when I called him this afternoon to say what happened, he was working on the tenders for tomorrow. So he wasn't real happy with himself, and I said, okay, fine, it's not our screw up. I've got to feel comfortable that way, but it didn't really help the process, and when we don't have a whole lot of contractors doing this work. But anyway, as Mike says, we can redo it. Certainly this one contractor, I would hope, would bid on it, but we can't guarantee that. It's a gamble. But,
my question is it a big project or is it?
No, it's not. It's not huge. It's
I don't have anything on it. But
dollars and cents was. No, it was $78,000 total project, and that's after engineering and everything else gets taken off that. So there's probably 20 or 1,000
allowances for right away damages and contingencies.
we take off allowances, contingencies, and everything else, there's probably 20 off that, so it would be more in the $60,000. It's not a big project, and that may, to a certain degree, have a bearing on it as well. So that's the decision, I guess. Are we asking for?
When we get to that point, we're go through the whole list of them and get to that point.
Any questions for me on that? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
So before we go into the, do you want me to do the CEO treasurer's report?
We're going to do it together.
Okay.
So we did it in conjunction today. So I did the typing and he did the reviewing. So we worked together on it. So.
Okay. So you want to do the tenders now, or do you want his report done first?
Well, we should do his report first.
Okay. Okay, Jim, we'll jump into your report first.
Okay. Well, we go through here that maintenance that we've done over the last year. I went through my bills, and there were 23 different municipal tile drains that we did repairs on, that varying from $400 to, we had one that was in the $25,000 to $30,000 tile repairs. We never know what we're getting into with some of these. Some of them are very minor; they're more nuisance than anything, but they have to be fixed. Open drains, we did work on 13 different drains. Beaver removed from 4 of them. A couple that only required brushing. Full cleanups were done on others. We had one where there's an interesting one that the drain that's between Egremont and Highway 402, that there was an overflow drain called the Hooven that comes off 402. Not too sure what happened, but there's large gaping baskets that drop the water, hold it back and then drop it down, and then hold it back and then drop it down, and then hold it. And the iron, the galvanized steel, and all the gaping baskets went all over the pot. So we had stone rubble all over the place. So that was a new one. We really didn't know what to get into there, because we could have spent a fortune if we had to tear them all out and rebuild them. But it was a very expensive drain at the time. New construction. There's nine on the go here at various stages. So I don't know if you got any questions with any of this, and fire away. I'll try to answer.
Is there any questions at all for Jim?
Through you, Curtis, to Jim. In the past, before you became the drainage superintendent, we had a lot of issues with drainage not being built out. So are we up to date with that?
Trying to stay current. The boss is making me.
If I may, the Drainage Act, the ADIP has changed their policies that the drainage superintendent does it to a certain point, and then it becomes a treasury function. And it's very explicit on when it becomes a different function, but we are filling that.
There are
as we
time
go.
limits in order to get grant that we are trying to fulfill. They have been extended a couple of years ago to April, but I'm well into them. We used to have them done by February, and I still like to stick to that date as much as possible, because as weather warms up and I get called out, then I don't have time to be doing paperwork. So, yeah, we'll be on track to get all the maintenance out on time, or otherwise we won't get it. So, grant forms have been sent in for my time from last year already. So,
good.
And all of our eligible construction has been sent in as well. So
good.
Good.
Thank you.
Probably one of the worst issues we have is with OMAF themselves in trying to pay us back. It's typical government that they're a little slow. They say they're getting better, but we'll see. It's been a little frustrating. The complaints have been forwarded to them, but tactfully, because we want the money, but we want the money now.
Well, there's lots of activity in the drains by the looks of things. You're in a busy man.
I don't think there's any shortage of work. I've asked Mike. I haven't pushed him because it's kind of a pro bono thing that I have, I think, 3 drains where landowners have asked for some ballpark numbers that, and they have been pretty good in the past to give us that. If you've got an existing drain that runs from one road to another and you know it's 2,000 feet, say, and they say it's out of shape, it needs to be replaced, and based on profile and distance, they can come up with some ballpark numbers that we can take back to the landowner and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. Are you interested? And I haven't received that yet, but yeah, there's no shortage of it. Holy smokes.
No, but it's something that has to be maintained. It does. I think it's very important, and it looks like you're busy. You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. I'm enjoying it here. I hope you're reasonably happy with me here.
Oh, no, it's good.
Is there any other questions at all? All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I think it's just, we can't leave yet after we do the motion, because you
He's
still have to be here for the next
sticking
one.
around for the tender, so.
Yeah. We need a motion, though, to resolve that council accepts the report of the drainage superintendent as presented.
I'll move.
Councilor Sanders, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockton. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. So we'll jump back into the CEO Register's report.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. The next item are the tenders and quotes, or tenders and requests for proposals. The first one in front of you this evening is the Stevenson Drain 2017. The tender for the repairs were issued on Monday, February the 12th and closed today at noon. Tenders were opened at 2:45 p.m. today by the drainage superintendent and myself. We received, we sent out 4 direct invitations as well as posted on the website. We received 2 quotes back, and as you heard, one was thinking the 20th was the 21st. So we have the 2 quotes in front of you. AG Hayter Contracting Limited, $81,180 plus HST. And Robinson Farm Drainage Limited, $76,825 plus HST. The engineer's estimate for construction is $97,920. And the recommendation is to accept the tender from Robinson Farm Drainage in the amount of $76,825 plus HST, subject to review and concurrence by Spreed Associates. And what we do is fax off the tenders to Spreeds, and they review them just to ensure that there is nothing invalid in the tender. So moved.
Thank you by Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Councilor Sanders. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Next one. Slightly confusing. It was tender for the Morgan Drain Branch C 2017. Again, the tenders were issued Monday, February the 12th and closed today at noon, and they were opened at 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. There was 2 options available for this tender. There was the basic work, which is column A under the subtotal. There was also a tender document issued for the open cut under Mull Ferry Drive, and there was also an option to provide price for boring under Mull Ferry Drive. So we had the subtotal A plus B gives us $87,522.50, which is an open cut across Mull Ferry Drive, and subtotal A and C is a total of $90,712.50, and those were submitted by AG Hayter Contracting Limited. Robinson Farm Drainage, their basic amount was $73,750. With an open cut, it was another $10,000 for a total of $83,750, and for a boring, it was $88,750. Jeff Little, our public works manager, did review them, and he is would like to see the Mull Ferry Drive crossing bored underneath the road, so there's less disturbance to the road. So the recommendation is that we accept the tender from Robinson Farm Drainage in the amount of $88,750 plus HST, which includes boring and Mull Ferry Drive crossing, subject to review and concurrence by Spreed Associates.
Sanders?
Go ahead.
We did overcut on, come on, what road was that? No, am I correct? That was all overcut, both of them. So you think it's worth the extra to not disturb the road, or? I'm just asking, because we did it there. Oh, you were there, Jim. Oh, sweet. So So I'm just asking, if there's a difference of what, roughly $5,000?
Mayor, this was a tough one, because $5,000 is a lot in the total value of what's going on there, so it wasn't a take it lightly decision. From my point of view, I gotta look at what's better for the road, and there's less disturbance with the bore that goes across it. And Mulberry is one of our busiest roads, whether it's commuter traffic or not, it is one of our roads. The other thing that came into play a little bit is I haven't been here very long, and I really honestly, I think everybody's pretty happy around here, but the one call I did get in the office was about Mulberry, don't make it too rough, that there's, I think, a road crossing already up there that is not, it was open cut across it, and it's not in good shape. I don't want to address that. But to add another one to Mulberry, I've just seen that a complaint did come in on the shape of Mulberry. So that made me consider that maybe we should spend extra money and go with a bore across it. There's one coming up a little bit later, Cuddy and maybe Melwood. You do have to consider how much, and I talked to Jim about that today. Some of them get more expensive. This one is a bit pricey, and you do have to consider that when you're doing an open cut versus a bore. I tend, when we have hard surface, tend to lean to be on the bore side of things, whereas if it's gravel, it's an open cut. It's not a big deal. So that was my decision on the Mulberry one.
So my next question, that'll be my last one. So the 5,000 extra, is it assessed over the drain, or we pick up the 5,000?
It is special assessment to the roads department.
That extra 5 is ours?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, the recommendation there?
Yeah. So moved.
Councilor McKinnon, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
Your Worship, I just noticed this is Rebotham Green. I probably have a conflict with this. I need another glass of water.
Sorry.
The next tender was tender 04-2018 for the repair to the Rebotham Drain 2017. Again, the tenders were issued on Monday, February the 12th and closed today at noon. The tenders were opened, and we had 2 tenders returned. Again, it was an option for an open cut or boring. From AG Hayter Contracting Limited, the subtotal for the work was $62,357.50. With an open cut option, it was $12,190 for a total of $74,547.50. For the boring, it was the $62,357.50 plus $13,725 for a total of $76,082.50. From Robinson Farm Drainage, the basic cost was $57,629. The open cut was $8,800 for a total of $66,429. And for the boring, it was $57,629 plus $7,850 for a total of $65,479 plus the HST. Again, the tenders were reviewed by Jeff as well, and he would like to see the Cuddy Drive cut be bored as well. So the recommendation is to accept the tender from Robinson Farm Drainage Limited in the amount of $65,479 plus HT, which includes the boring of Cuddy Drive crossing, subject to review and concurrence by Spree Associates. And this drain did come in under the engineer's estimate of $83,260.
Deputy Stockman?
Just a question, how come
Yeah.
the boring is cheaper?
Yeah.
And
Seriously.
I'm not a bore expert by any means. There is a different size in pipe. Maybe Jim, you have some.
You know, back what we discussed before, but you know, the advantages and disadvantages. This is a 12-inch bore, so it's not a real big pipe. Whether that is a factor or not. Robinson Farm Drainage is owned by Carl Robinson. Jim Robinson, his brother, does boring.
Right.
I'll say no more. I don't know. You know, he's probably got a brother doing the other one, and it was more money. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I looked at that too, and I said to myself, hey,
And through the mayor, I mean, to me, $1,000 to save Cuddy is that's
oh,
not
absolutely.
5,000 on Mulberry, that's not a light decision. But
no, right. I thought that was quite a bit, but this is yeah, that's no decision.
So that's moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
And the next one is the Ward Drain Extension 2017 tender. It was also issued on Monday, February the 12th and closed on Tuesday, February the 20th at noon. We only received one tender for the proposed work, and you heard the information provided by engineer Michael Voss from Spreets. We consulted him just to get some information. If council would like, we can hold this tender and try to re-tender it, or we can open this tender and accept the price that is, as long as it's not 133% of the estimate.
Councillor McKinnon?
I'm of the mind to open it. All the contractors were given the same time, and 2 of the 4 met it, so, and 3 of the 4 was good.
Any other thoughts? Deputy Mayor Stockman?
Garrett can attest to this. This would be 3 years this summer that Dad's house had water in the basement, so I don't think he would appreciate this being put off again.
Any other thoughts? So, Councillor Hendricks?
Yeah, this is the drain then that goes across Pike.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, it's about time it got done.
And the township has bought the pipe for it.
So the pipe won't it's just as simple of open up.
We'll just open them.
That's what you yeah.
Okay. We'll open it.
It's like Christmas.
Surprise, surprise. Just hope it's a good number.
So we received one tender from All Seasons Excavating. It's a limited company operating as All Seasons Excavating, and their total is $51,450 plus HST.
What was that again?
51,450.
So that's got to be underestimate.
It's under their estimate. I believe it was 58 something total.
But is that going with or without the pipe?
Yeah. The pipe would be included in the engineer's estimate. So we've already spent 10,000. No, it was almost 20,000 on the pipe for that project.
And what was the estimate?
77,900. That's including the engineering and everything.
So you're still under estimate.
So take 20 off, so we're 57.
Yeah, well, we're not enough, but that's okay. Yep.
So the recommendation would be to accept the tender from All Seasons Excavating in the amount of $51,450 plus HST, subject to review by Spreets.
Also,
Councillor Sanders and seconded by Councillor McKinnon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
They've done work for us before.
But as Mike says, he's done work with them. I'm somewhat familiar with them also, but I haven't done drainage work with them at all. So
they don't do drainage. No. They did
they did Ferry and they did Brown.
They did that 79 highway. That's a good. They don't do actually real drains.
they do the landscaping.
But the landscaping or that kind of work, yes. I
Maybe,
know,
maybe a better contractor with something like this.
oh, I think maybe
Say,
you're right.
my experience has been with some of these that we've had no bids, or the bids have been out of this world because these guys don't have, Haters and Van Breed and whatnot, don't have the equipment to be doing
Exactly.
landscaping.
They got dozers, they got, hose, they got small hose, they got the equipment to do
Well, that's
that
part
kind
of
of
what
work.
you're into. Landowners that are fussy, that you're not dealing with leveling a farm, and that's a little different. Yes, well, I'm not, hey, it's reality. It's the same as my lawn.
It's the piece between the two culverts.
So we'll move on to the next.
Yes.
Or are you wanting to jump out of here?
Well, I'd be all sound, I'd have to stick around, if I'm just taking up space, and I'll get out of here.
We're happy.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jim.
Good night, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Jim.
So the last item that I have is the report on the proposal for the supply of a photocopier for the township. As you know, we issued an RFP on Monday, January the 29th, which closed on Friday, February 2nd at 4 p.m. The proposals were opened on Monday, February 5th, and we received 4 proposals from 3 companies. There was a variation in some of the prices, which some of the information and what we required was included and some weren't. The the request for proposals have been reviewed, and you'll see the first one is from Rival Office Solutions, which is a Ricoh copier. The total is $7,995 plus HST, and the service agreement is on the right, which we pay for a black and white, we pay 0.007 cents, and for a color copy, we pay 0.055 cents per copy. From Canon, they quoted 2 different types of Canon copiers. One is similar to what we have. It's an enhanced version of what we have. And the subtotal price is $8,956.35 plus HST, with a service agreement of black and white per copy of 0.00902 cents per copy, and the color of 0.06516 cents per copy. The second copier is a larger model, it's more heavy duty, and it came in at $10,220.44 with a slightly lower price per copy for the service agreement. And from OE Canada Inc., they quoted on a Toshiba copier, and the total was $6,740.41, which included all of the mandatory equipment that was in the tender. And the service agreement for a black and white copy is 0.0075 cents, and a color copy is 0.0533 cents per copy. And the recommendation is to approve the proposal from OE Canada for the supply of a Toshiba eStudio 4505 AC photocopier is recommended. The only, we've never dealt with OE Canada. They do come with several good references in their binder, and they provided it to some large organizations. The only difference between the OE Canada and the Rival with Canon is Canon offers their own equipment, whereas OE Canada and Rival supply different options for photocopiers. They supply different equipment, so they're not just their own brand. But I believe that the Toshiba copier should work for our purposes. It provides scanning and copying just as we require.
So moved. Okay, so that's Councillor McKinnon and seconded by Councillor Hendricks. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. I just had one question before I jump away from that. So that was in the 2017 budget, so
Yes. So we're carried over. We were taking the $10,000 out of reserves. We had a reserve for that, so it will come out of that account.
Okay, is there any questions all for Kathy? No. Motion to resolve that council accepts the report of the CEO treasurer as presented.
I'll move.
Councillor Sanders and Deputy Mayor Stockman. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay, do we have anything for other business?
I should probably report that I went to this meeting a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very good conference. I found it much more useful than emo. It was more targeted towards municipalities our size, and so all the workshops were interesting to go to. So it wasn't like when you go to emo, you kind of pick the one that's a little rural, and everything else is. It was well run. It was chock full of things to do. I didn't have much time to sit around and feel lonely. So, and like all AMO Roma type stuff, it is available on the AMO website to see any of the speakers that were there. I did write some notes in here, but it's a month ago, so I'm not even sure I understand my notes. There were about 850 delegates there, so it was a good-sized crowd, and it was very easy to get to. So it was very well run, and of course we got the announcement about our Main Street funding. And it was quite interesting. I got home and found out all those little cards from the PC party were pretty useless because there was a lot of election type paraphernalia laying around everywhere, but we have one party that's got a whole new different strategy going now, so that was a little different.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and as usual, provincial politicians are very good at answering a question by giving us absolutely no answer at all. But I appreciate the opportunity to go there. I found it very worthwhile. Learned a lot.
Excellent. Is there anything else for other business at all? No. Just before I move into bylaws, just one thing, I guess two things for myself. I attended the grand opening of the McEwen Petroleum and Country Line store. If you haven't been there yet, I would recommend stopping by. It's quite a place actually. So it's more than just your regular convenience store. There's a lot more there than I expected to be there. So there was a number of people from the community out during the grand opening. They have a lot of different good deals that are happening there. So I'm sure that they'll have a very good business for many years to come. So.
Also comment, the price of gas in Strasbourg has come down about 5 cents in the last week.
It's actually down to 112.9. It was 119.9.
Yeah.
The Superstore and McEwen are keeping up with each other.
And the other thing is, this Friday is the Leaders Luncheon for the Chamber of Commerce. It's happening at Carroll Sands. So I'll be there doing a presentation and working away at the power plant right now. So everything goes as well as planned.
Was that registered copy?
Yes. Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay.
As well as
It's on my calendar.
If there's nothing further, we'll go into the bylaws. Motion to resolve that the first and second reading be given to bylaw number 5, 2018, the Village Drain 2017, and bylaw number 6, 2018, McKean Drain 2017, and the bylaws be signed by the mayor and clerk. And Director Stockman, and seconded by Councilor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next one is resolve that 3 readings be given to bylaw number 7, 2018, confirm council proceedings, and that the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal be attached. Councilor Sanders and Director Stockman, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. And motion to resolve that the meeting be adjourned at 8:34 p.m. Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Director Stockman and Councilor McKenna. All those in favor? Opposed?